Lester was a kind soul. He loved animals. He volunteered at the local animal shelter every Saturday. He would walk the dogs, play with the cats, and clean the cages. Lester felt a connection to these animals, many of whom had been abandoned or mistreated. He couldn't bear the thought of them feeling alone and scared. Lester had a special way with the animals. He could calm the most frightened dog and make the shyest cat purr. The other volunteers admired his dedication and compassion. One crisp autumn evening, Lester didn't show up at the shelter. This was unusual. He never missed a shift. Concern rippled through the volunteers. They knew Lester was reliable. Something had to be wrong. Calls were made. No answer. A knot of worry tightened in their stomachs. Where could he be? The hours ticked by, each one heavier than the last. Lester was missing. The first responders were met with a grim scene at Lester's house. The front door was ajar, a silent invitation into a nightmare. Inside, the home was in disarray. Furniture was overturned, papers were scattered. The air was thick with the metallic scent of blood. Lester's body was discovered in the living room, slumped over his favorite armchair. It was a horrifying sight. The brutality of the crime scene was a stark contrast to the kindness Lester embodied. The investigation began immediately. Every inch of Lester's home was photographed and dusted for prints. Neighbors were questioned. The police were determined to find the person who had stolen Lester's life. As the news of Lester's murder spread, the community was gripped by fear and suspicion. The tranquility of their small town was shattered, replaced by an unsettling unease. Who could have committed such a horrific act? Was it a stranger passing through, or someone Lester knew? The rumors began to swirl. Every conversation was laced with fear and speculation. Some whispers pointed to a recent disagreement Lester had with a disgruntled neighbor over a property line. Others spoke of a stranger seen lurking around the neighborhood in the days leading up to the murder. Every lead, every whisper was investigated. No stone was left unturned. The police were determined to separate fact from fiction, to cut through the noise and find the truth. Among the whispers, two names began to surface repeatedly: Billy Ray and Jimbo. They were known troublemakers, drifters who had recently been seen around town. They had a reputation for petty theft and violence. Their presence in the community had made some residents uneasy. Could they be responsible for Lester's death? The police decided to investigate these two men further. They were persons of interest, and their stories needed to be heard.
Billy Ray and Jimbo were a study in contrasts. Billy Ray, with his wiry frame and nervous energy, was quick to anger. He had a volatile temper that flared up at the slightest provocation.
Jimbo, on the other hand, was hulking and slow-witted, content to follow Billy Ray's lead. He was easily influenced and seemed to crave Billy Ray's approval.
They were an unlikely pair, but their bond was undeniable. They had drifted into town a few weeks before Lester's murder, their past shrouded in mystery. They worked odd jobs, never staying in one place for too long. They were like shadows, moving silently on the periphery of the community. They kept to themselves, but their presence was unsettling. They had a way of making people uncomfortable. Their eyes seemed to hold secrets, their smiles never quite reaching their eyes. The police visited the rundown motel on the outskirts of town where Billy Ray and Jimbo were staying. The motel manager, a weary woman with tired eyes, confirmed that the two men had been living there for the past few weeks. She said they mostly kept to themselves, but she had seen them arguing with Lester a few days before his murder. It was about money, she said. Lester had refused to give them any.
Section 5, A Trail of Evidence. I was assigned to Lester's case, known for my meticulous attention to detail. My reputation is that of a relentless man, one who won't rest until justice is served. As I studied the crime scene photos, my gaze lingered on every detail. I reviewed the witness statements, looking for inconsistencies, for any thread that could lead me to the killer. and slowly a picture began to emerge. Forensic evidence revealed that Lester had struggled with his attacker. There were signs of a struggle, broken furniture, and overturned lamps. Fingerprints found at the scene were a match for Billy Ray. The evidence was mounting, pointing towards Billy Ray and Jimbo. A search warrant for their motel room was issued. Inside the motel room, officers found a blood-stained shirt hidden under the mattress. The blood matched Lester's blood type. It was the smoking gun I needed. The net was closing in on Billy Ray and Jimbo. They were apprehended at a gas station just outside of town. They were trying to flee. They were brought in for questioning. Section 6. Peacock's Deductions. Sitting across from Billy Ray and Jimbo in the interrogation room, I laid out the evidence before them, piece by piece. The fingerprints, the blood-stained shirt, the eyewitness accounts. I watched their reactions, their body language, the way their eyes darted around the room. I could sense their fear.
My face pale and drawn, I corroborated Billy Ray's story. I said I had never intended for things to go that far. I had just been following Billy Ray's lead, as I always did. I expressed remorse, but it was too late. We had taken a life. S2, I cracked first. I confessed that Jimbo and I had gone to Lester's house to ask for money. When Lester refused, an argument ensued. The argument escalated, and in a fit of rage, I struck Lester, killing him. Jimbo, paralyzed by fear, had stood by and watched. He hadn't stopped me.
The trial of Billy Ray and Jimbo was a somber affair. The courtroom was packed with Lester's friends and family, their faces etched with grief and anger. They wanted justice for Lester, for the kind and gentle soul who had been taken from them too soon. The prosecution presented a compelling case, laying out the evidence against Billy Ray and Jimbo in painstaking detail. The defense argued that Billy Ray had not intended to kill Lester, that it had been an accident, a fight that had gone too far. They pleaded for leniency, citing Billy Ray's difficult upbringing and Jimbo's limited mental capacity. The jury listened intently as both sides presented their cases. The weight of their decision hung heavy in the air. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Billy Ray was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Jimbo, found guilty of manslaughter, received a lesser sentence. Justice had been served, but it would not bring Lester back. The trial concluded. The gavel slammed down, echoing the finality of the verdict. Billy Ray, his face pale and drawn, showed no emotion as he was led away in handcuffs. Jimbo, his eyes filled with tears, hung his head in shame. For Lester's friends and family, the verdict brought a sense of closure, but it couldn't erase their pain. The trial had been a harrowing experience, but it had also been a testament to the power of truth. The truth, as Detective Peacock had known all along, had a way of revealing itself. It might have been buried under layers of lies and deceit, but it always found its way to the surface. And when it did, it shone a light on the darkness, exposing the guilty and offering a glimmer of hope to the grieving. The community, forever marked by the tragedy, slowly began to heal. They would never forget Lester, his kindness, his love for animals, his gentle spirit. They would honor his memory by continuing his legacy of compassion and care. Lester's murder was a stark reminder of the fragility of life. It was a chilling example of how quickly things could change, how easily violence could erupt, shattering the peace and leaving behind a trail of devastation. It forced the community to confront the darkness that lurked beneath the surface, the potential for evil that existed even in the most seemingly idyllic of places. But amidst the grief and sorrow, there was also a glimmer of hope. The truth had prevailed. Billy Ray and Jimbo had been held accountable for their actions. The justice system, though imperfect, had worked. It had provided a measure of solace to Lester's loved ones and a sense of security to the community. The truth, as it always does, had won. It had brought closure to a painful chapter and served as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. The human spirit, though wounded, had an incredible capacity for resilience. The community would heal, they would remember Lester, and they would move forward, carrying his memory with them. The case of Lester's murder, a stark and tragic tale, serves as a solemn reminder of the enduring power of truth. It highlights the importance of seeking justice for victims and holding perpetrators accountable for their actions. While the pain of such crimes may linger, the pursuit and ultimate triumph of truth offer a glimmer of hope and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Lester's legacy of compassion and his love for animals continue to inspire those who knew him. His story serves as a reminder that even small acts of kindness can have a profound impact on the world. And while his life was tragically cut short, his memory lives on, a beacon of light in a world often shrouded in darkness. In the end, the truth always wins. It may take time and it may be a long and arduous journey, but it will always find its way to the surface. And when it does, it brings with it the possibility of healing, of justice, and of hope for a brighter future.